Well, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here, and well, I would like to speak Japanese, but unfortunately I don't. So, I hope you can follow the test, and of course, if there is some problem in understanding, then stop me, and I'll try to explain. Actually, I'm going to start with something that it's not in the text, and it's in a sense the kind of inspiration of this talk, because the idea came when I hope that here it's okay. Yes, when I read this in the Okakura Katsuko, the Book of Theme, this quotation struck me because he said, you see, the philosophy of theme is moral geometry, inasmuch as it defines our sense of proportion to the universe. And I found this proposition, I mean, this statement, very, how can I say, in contrast with the usual way in which I and philosopher of science and in the Western culture see geometry. Actually, what is peculiar here is that Okakura is talking about moral geometry, and instead people like Leibniz or Spinoza talk about the rather geometrical moral. So they see that moral has to be geometrical because there has to be a rule, there is to be a mathematical rule in the moral. Instead, Okakura talk about moral geometry. So it's just the opposite. And so I wanted to explore a little bit why we are so obsessed, in a sense, with geometry and with mathematics, and so this is the reason why I was trying to see this through images, through painting, and above all in the way in which geometry is used in order to make precise the rules of the propagation of light, and so the way in which geometry is connected with the science of light, and of course with the transformation in the culture. Light, of course, is not only connected with art, but it's even, and it's also connected with moral, and this is again what we are going to explore. The starting point of my talk, well, here I outline let's say the chapter that I'm going to explore. I would like to start with the character. I'm going to see why there is this kind of connotation in our thought, that is why the mathematics and geometry is so important, so the characters of Western philosophy. And then how the science of light became important in the medieval age in order to explain in order to explain the puzzle that was posed by the infinite of God. And the science of light, of course, was the optics. And so the way in which a physician and mathematician were studying the laws of propagation of ray in order to understand the science of light. Then geometry of the ray, that means when mathematician, in a sense, well, artist more than mathematician, we should say, changed the rule of perspective, because in the medieval, optics is natural perspective, so it's a study of the propagation of natural light. And then the artificial perspective, linear perspective, is what the artists did in the Renaissance. That means they changed the law of propagation of light in order to adapt them for the artistic representation. And what's the meaning of this operation? So the geometry of vision and the substance of colors is what happened in the Renaissance, when the geometry of vision changed according to the rules of artificial perspective, and at that point, color and lines also were the means by which the artist tried to represent the reality. And then at a certain point, the reflection about the way in which artificial perspective changed the rule of geometry posed the question of what was the right geometry. So it was the geometry of Euclidean geometry, that means the rules of propagation of light according to the natural geometry of Euclid, or the geometry that came out from the painting of the Renaissance, because the two geometries are different. And at that point, there was a turning point in the reflection of Leibniz that somehow invite to reverse that perspective and to consider that the light comes from the eye of the observer, and so it changed the rule of light and shadow in the construction. And at that point, shadows also become important, and it's the interaction between light and shadows that somehow was the way in which the reflection after the Renaissance go ahead. Anyway, let's start then with these lines from the Paradiso of Dante Alighieri.